Is it possible to have a finger-safe lock that is also ultra thin? We're going to find that out and more on today's episode of Knife AQ, episode 183 of the series where I answer all your questions, sharp or dull. Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the KnifeCenter. That's Thomas behind the camera, as always. If you're new to this series, what we do is we take your questions from the comments section and try to give you informative and hopefully entertaining answers. So if you've got a question you think it deserves a shot at being answered in a future episode, please leave it below. First question we're getting to today comes from Keebler the Stoic. It's a good name. Hi David, I need your help to avoid a pocket fixed blade. But why? Why wouldn't you? You could have a pocket fixed blade. But anyway.
Wow, did you design that one or something?
I may have done. MKM Pocket Tango. Says, I need to retire my Gerber Descent 2. Are there any equally thin finger-safe folders that could win that pocket space? Thanks for the help. Love your work. Thomas. P.S. You can... Oh, love your work, Thomas. There you go.
You're welcome.
Whatever. I'm just here, I guess. P.S. You can ignore the carabiner. I always do. So yeah, that knife has been discontinued for a while. I'm not even sure when the last time they were made was. And you've got your thin lock side and just a sliver of a scale on the front. So they are very thin. But interestingly, this is a knife that's not... That's the only dimension in which it's small. Like, it's a pretty wide, broad knife. It just happens to carry thin. So that's kind of led me to the suggestions I'm going to offer to you here. Don't know how long ago you bought this knife, but like I said, they haven't made this in quite a while. So I'm hoping your budget is a little higher than what it was when you first bought this knife, because let's look at the specs here. First off, closed length is 4.65 inches. So that opens up plenty of options here for us. Blade length of 3 inches. We're going to be able to get you more than that in some cases quite easily here. Weight 4 ounces, so fairly heavy for compared to some of the stuff we're going to look at today. And 7CR series stainless steel. We're going to be able to do you way better for some options here. Now, where it gets tricky is the finger safe lock that you mentioned. And for those of you who sometimes say, oh, all locks are safe, all we mean by that is it's a feature that allows you to close the lock or close the knife without your fingers ever crossing the path of the blade as it pivots towards the closed position. There are some locks that do that, crossbar locks, button locks. Button locks usually need extra thickness though, more thickness to make the stuff work. There's some William Henrys out there that are nice and thin, but they don't really go after kind of the hard-working feeling vibe of this Gerber you're talking about. So, most of the finger-safe locking knives that do manage to get super thin tend to come at a bit of a price premium because they're harder to do. And perfect example of that is the Benchmade Narrows. It is an exceedingly thin knife, as you can see here. Titanium scales and crazy thin. 3.4 inch M390 blade, so more edge length than the knife that you're replacing, and a I couldn't even overstate how much more edge retention you're going to get out of this M390 versus the 7CR. And still a closed length that is a little bit less than the Gerber. There you go. Deep carry pocket clip, nice action. You've got finger safe closing action with the axis lock there. You're going to pay a pretty penny for this. The standard price on this is about $520 and $522, I think, for this knife. Great slicey blade, carries it very thin in the pocket. You have to decide if that's going to be worth it for you. 2.41 ounces versus 4-ish ounces for the Gerber you're looking to replace. So very thin, high performance is going to carry even easier, I think. Another option is something like the Sandrin Monza. This could be really cool. It's coming in about $469, so still not cheap. A little bit less than the Benchmade, however. Closed length here, 4.3. So again, well under the Gerber Descent and narrower package overall. So I think it should be even easier to carry. Nice slicey blade, 3.38 inches long, and it's actually not steel. You've got polyhedral tungsten carbide for the blade material. edge is gonna last a crazy long time. Eventually it will need to be touched up, and it is gonna be a little more difficult to manage at that point. But look how thin that blade is. Handles nice and thin, not quite as thin as the Benchmade, but still very, very thin indeed. And you've got the Snex style super lock there on the back, offering that finger safe closing. It's a little bit more finicky than the crossbar lock that the Benchmade has. Might be better if this had some jimping there right on the front to make that a little easier, but still quite manageable. Deep carry pocket clip here as well. The other knife that comes to mind for being crazy thin actually came out a few years before the Narrows did. And this is going to be a smaller knife overall, but similar blade length, and that's the SOG Ultra XR. This comes in at a more attainable $130 compared to the other knives. 2.8 inch blade, S35 VN. You can get it in this gold or a black coating, I want to say. Yep, black coating is also available. Carbon fiber handle scales and just a whisper of them on each side. Very, very narrow, or very, very thin indeed. Decent amount of handle to hold on to. It's kind of a 3.5 finger grip for me. Actually more of a 3-finger grip, if I'm being honest here. Let me hold up, give a better shot for Thomas there. So it is not gonna have the same kind of, you know, I hesitate to say that Gerber felt rugged, because I haven't actually held one in who knows how long, but I'm going a little bit on memory here. This is not going to have the same feeling of solidity, at least, that knife did. And with only 3 fingers, you're not going to get as full of a grip as you could on that knife. But this is a very narrow option with good blade steel, finger safe locking. See, this one needs a little bit of breaking in, it seems, but that's okay. Sometimes that happens with a crossbar lock. Very money clip style clip right there. So those are 3 options. If you want, I've got some more affordable options, however, than the 2 more expensive ones we just showed you. You're not gonna get the same outright thinness as the Monza or the Narrows, but you are gonna save a bit of money, and they're still gonna be, I think, thin enough, and are gonna give you more hard-working feel than the SOG. First up, Spyderco. We've got the Para 3 Lightweight. They start at about $133 for a BD1 steel version. This is the Spy 27 version right here. That's Spyderco's proprietary powder metallurgy steel. Again, anything here is going to offer you way more edge retention than your old Gerber. This one right here comes in about $160 and some change. You've got a 3-inch blade here, not super thin, but you have a full flat grind and a distal taper, so it's only at its thickest point back on the heel sections of the blade. This is a pretty good EDC slicer. You've got the compression lock, so as long as you're right-handed, it's very easy to use in that finger-safe manner. Deep carry wire pocket clip. Not crazy thin, however. Thin enough, I would say, and light enough. Again, this is another knife that comes in about 2.4 ounces, so quite easy to carry. And again, it's something that, even though it's a little wider in the pocket, feels like it's not taking up that much more room than your old Gerber would have. This is a good option. Also a good option, and especially one if you want to maintain a bit of that kind of modified sheep's footy style of that old Gerber that you own. It's kind of it's somewhere in between a sheep's foot and a drop point in its shape. But here you go, the 80-20.5 from Demco. This is the D2 steel version, the K110 brand name D2. These are on sale right now for about $130. Same price as that SOG right now, in fact. Nice and thin, or again, thin enough, not gonna equal the Narrows, but it is still quite thin. Closed length on this is coming in 4.5, so kind of around the same ballpark as your Gerber. You've got the Shark lock here. Operates similarly to that Snex lock on the Monza, but it's a little more fidgety, a little more easy to use, and finger safe as well, and ambidextrous. The whole package here comes with an extra clip in the pocket for the other side if you want to work on the left-hand side there. Other steels are available in this for more money, of course, but this is the entry point on that right now. And the last one I'll show you here is kind of the latest and greatest in this genre, I would say, and that's the Kershaw Bel Air, coming in just under $150. You've got a Magna Cut blade, which is everybody's favorite right now, and for pretty good reason. It does, everything pretty darn well. It's nice and slicey. The aluminum handles there are relatively thin. Again, theme carries on, not as thin as the ultra thinnest, but pretty darn thin. Closed length here, 4.2 inches, and you got that 3-inch blade. I think this would be a great alternative as well. You could also get it with a black aluminum handle at this point in time. So you should check all of those out. I think those could offer some good, compelling options for you with that finger-safe closing action and heaps more performance than your old reliable knife. But that's actually, it's a good thing to think about, for the steel snobs out there. And I'm not completely non-guilty of falling into that mentality sometimes. Even a 7CR blade can work for a long time if the whole knife is built well. I think that's shown today by Keebler the Stoic. Keebler, it's like the elf. It's Keebler, but like Keebler, if you pronounce it quickly.
I was wondering why his keys were blurry.
It's like I thought his fingers were going really fast, but the rest of him was not. He's like.
It's one way to be anonymous.
Keebler the elf said, no, sorry. Next question comes from Chris Dunn. Hey DCA and crew, I have the issue of sweating more than the average person. Slightly larger than average sweats, I should ask. Unfortunately, I tend to sweat through my pockets, and this leads to my knives picking up some rust. I've carried 14C28N, S30V, and 35VN blades with no luck on preventing them from getting tarnished. What do you recommend? Under $250, that is sweat-proof. Has an uncoated blade, because that eliminates something I could have said, like go for coated versions, and is good for most tasks. Bonus points for fidget factor. 3 steels, primarily I would look at LC200N, which is a kind of a ball bearing steel that is designed to be impervious to corrosion, or virtually impervious. H1 or H2, very similar, just slightly different. I said 3 steels. Technically it's 4 now because I've got another one here.
We'll say 3.5.
1 and 2, H1 and 2. So anyway. Sorry, I don't know where my mind was going there. And MagnaCut is the other one. I mentioned it's good at almost everything because it is, when heat treated right, very, 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 very stain resistant. Holds an edge well and is very tough too. But I have here an example from Spyderco's Salt series. And this is where honestly I would look, because not only do they use those 3.5, however you want to quantify it, steels. Actually, they don't use H1 anymore. They're transitioning to H2, so they still use those. They use those steels because of their rust-resistant properties. Their Salt series is designed to be as corrosion-proof as possible. And unlike potential other knives out there made by other companies that use those steels, everything on the handle side is equally strenuously tested to be corrosion-proof, or as much as humanly possible. This is the Caribbean. You've got fidget friendliness with the compression lock. We've already talked about that. This one's fresh out of the box. Sometimes they need a little bit of breaking in. Great all around. This comes in at a price of, got it here somewhere, about $244 and some change, but there are things in the Salt series that are far more affordable than that, if that is beyond your budget. If you want to know how rust resistant this is, check out last week's Knife AQ episode where we talked to Joe Flowers. Stick around to the end. We talk about the Caribbean. He lost it. It was spent months submerged in salt water in Florida when he found it, and it's virtually as good as new after spending that time there. So I would check those out, but anything in the Salt series would probably be your best bet. Well, now we come to the lightning round for today. First one comes from user Quickie1662Z. And this was in response to the discussion we were having on what is the best steel for your knife to be made out of for an apocalypse type of situation. A bit of a fanciful scenario, but hey, it's fun to talk about. And he said, I always prefer torn aluminum can aluminum. It is super sharp and super cheap. It's hard to tell whether people are joking sometimes on the internet, but some people might be serious about something like this. Which leads me to a thought that I've seen this in like prepping circles happen. In in an emergency, you can use something like a crayon as a candle. So saying your survival steel of choice would be aluminum, survival metal of choice, is like prepping and saying you're in the grocery store, or you're in the store wherever, and it's like, ooh, I should pick up some more crayons so I can use them as candles when, just in case of an emergency. Buy some candles. Like, they're probably there too. Like, buy candles. If you want to use something as a candle, buy the right thing. Sorry, I just wanted to say that.
I'm gonna buy some cans.
I mean, you can buy some cans too. Like you like your suds in there anyway.
There's foods in them.
There's that too. That's not aluminum though, really. Typically. Anyway, just don't buy crayons to use as candles. Like buy candles to use as candles, right? Anyway, next question comes from Chris Mack. Seth David Thomas, lightning round question. Will the Viper Nordlys fit in the MKM TPF Terzola Pocket Defense? Terzola Pocket Fixed. Black pocket leather sheath with magnetic closure. It's bigger than I thought it was going to be, honestly. And I was very prepared to say no, and until I actually tried it. And I would say yes, but I don't know if I'd quite recommend it. It is a really tight fit. You might get away with it. I cannot endorse it, however. So, sorry. Dramatic television here, don't you think?
Maybe that helped.
Go for that. Maybe that helped. Hope that helped. I'm not proud of that, of the length of my answer there, but there it is. Sorry. Josh 6865. DCA, would the magnets on the Pocket Tango be strong enough for an outside pocket carry, meaning the reverse of how you clip yours in the pocket? My state requires any fixed blade to be visible. That's a shame. I would not recommend that really either. This is not really designed to be carried outside the pocket or on the belt. It's not extremely secure. You could do it if you modified it in some way. Whether you manage to permanently attach these two sides or get some other custom sheath, quite honestly. But while maintaining the magnetism there, I wouldn't go for it. This is an inside the pocket deal right here for the Pocket Tango, or this Terzola Pocket Fixed Blade either. It's the same kind of deal right there. I would go with a no. Wow, all three of those lightning round questions, I basically said no to all three of them.
Nobody saw that coming.
I feel sort of a little sorry for that. I like to be positive. Anyway,
I feel serious.
Well, speaking of which, it is time for our last question of the day, which is, of course, our most serious question of the day.
That's what it was.
Which comes from Mogu Kumail. Enough talk about boot knives and neck knives. What would be a good knife to hide in my bird's nest? The Boker leg would just disappear in there. Be very, very nicely concealed. $26, D2 steel, fun action, and perfect for what you're looking for. That's all we've got for today, folks. Keep your questions coming, including your most serious questions, of course. They are the lifeblood of this series. Leave them down in the comments section below. And to get your hands on any of these knives or sheaths, check out the links in the description to take you to KnifeCenter.com. While you're there, don't forget about our long-running Knife Rewards program, because the least we can do when you buy one of our knives today is give you some free money to spend on your next one. I am David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera. Thanks for watching. We're signing off. See you next time.